running out to that huge school where she was one. She was lost. She was a drop, suffering over the unpreparedness, stammering, and unsure in her classes. Notice characterization. The narrator describes Emily as stammering and unsure, but then as someone who is in command. Either way, Emily's imprisoned. The idea of the circumstances of one life being akin to a prison is key to this story's theme. Back to the text. There was so little time left at night after the kids were bedded down. She would struggle over books, always eating. It was in those years she developed her enormous appetite that's legendary in our family. And I would be ironing or preparing food for the next day or writing V-mail to Bill or tending the baby, sometimes to make me laugh, or out of her despair she would imitate happenings at school. I think I said once, "Why don't you do something like this in the school amateur show?" One morning she phoned me at work, hardly understandable through the weeping. "Mother, I did it. I won. They gave me first prize. They clapped and wouldn't let me go." Now, suddenly, she was somebody, and as imprisoned in her difference as she had been in anonymity. Page 10. She began to be asked to perform at other high schools, even colleges, then at city and statewide affairs. This one we went to. I only recognized her that first moment when, thin, shy, she almost drowned herself into the curtains. Then, was this Emily? The control, the command, the convulsing and deadly clowning, the spell, then the roaring, the stamping audience, unwilling to let its rare and precious laughter out of their lives. Afterwards, you ought to do something about her with a gift like that, but without money or knowing how, what does one do? We've left it all to her, and the gift has often edited inside, clogged and clotted, has been used and growing. She is coming. She runs up the stairs 2 at a time with her light, graceful step, and I know she is happy tonight. Whether it was that occasioned your call did not happen today. Aren't you ever going to finish ironing, Mother? Whistler painted his mother in a rocker. I'd have to paint mine standing over an ironing board. This is one of her communicative nights, and she tells me everything and nothing as she fixes herself a plate of food out of the icebox. She is so lovely. Why did you want to come up at all? Why were you concerned? She will find her way. She starts up the stairs to bed. Don't get me up with the rest in the morning. But I thought you were having midterms. Oh, those. She comes back in, kisses me, and says quite lightly, in a couple of years, when we'll all be atom dead, they won't matter a bit. She said it before. She believes it. But because I've been dredging the past and all that compounds a human being is so heavy and meaningful in me, I cannot endure it tonight. I will never total it all. I will never come to say, she was a child seldom smiled at. Her father left me before she was a year old. I had to work for 6 years when there was work, or I sent her home, and to his relatives there were tears. She had care she hated. She was dark and thin and foreign looking in a world where the prestige went to blondness and curly hair and dimples. She was slow where glibness was prized. She was a child of anxious, not proud love. We were poor and could not afford for her the soil of easy growth. I was a young mother. I was a distracted mother. There were other children pushing up, demanding. Her younger sister seemed all that she was not. There were years she did not want me to touch her. She kept too much in herself. Her life was such she had to keep too much in herself. My wisdom came too late. She has much to her, and probably little will come of it. She is a child of her age, of depression, of war, of fear. Let her be. So all that is in her will not bloom. But in how many does it? There is still enough left to live by. Only help her to know. Help make it so there is a cause for her to know that she is more than this dress on the ironing board, helpless before the iron. Now again, all kinds of interesting observations. Notice at number 12 there, determining the theme by combining details about the impact of the historical setting on the characters and the hopes that the mother has for her daughter. You might interpret the story's theme in this way. While historical events and personal circumstances may make life difficult and unfair, people survive. Now, this is a brilliant little cutting because it introduces us to levels of reading. Notice in this text, let's work very quickly at levels 1, 2, and 3. Notice in this text at level 1, you would just simply say, literally, all that's happening is the mother is ironing and briefly engages in a conversation with her college-age daughter. Of course, while she's ironing, what game is she playing? Well, reflecting back to an earlier time when the college-age daughter was not college-age, but was quite young, and had discovered a bit of talent, right? And yet, even in the discovery of that talent, there was some sense of being stuck, imprisoned, unable to escape. Of course, the whole time, what's the mother doing? She's ironing, right? She's reflecting back on a time when she started to recognize some important things about what it means to be a mother. Can we just pause here and make a 3B observation? Because we're freshmen, it might make sense for us to at least ask this question. While you've been going to school for 8 years, now starting your ninth year, those people who raised you, what have they been doing? What have they been doing? And notice how as freshmen, how easy it is for us to realize, I have no idea. Come to think of it, I really could care less. And yet, now that I think about it, if ironing is what is the symbol, the primary symbol in this text, what was the primary symbol of those people when you were growing up? Maybe it was making meals. Maybe it was cleaning. Maybe it was ironing. Of course, we live in a day now today where ironing is not as popular as it once was, right? That is to say, this is part of a setting from the 1950s, right? Of course, at 2A then, the major theme here, well, there's all kinds of them, isn't there? Struggle, survival. By the way, we're going to see these themes a lot in our freshman year because these are really ancient themes. They go all the way back to the very ancient of literature. That notion that Nietzsche will say in his classic text, that which does not destroy me makes me stronger. But of course, the question is always, is that true? Do you feel like the mother has gotten stronger? Notice on page 10, there were years she did not want me to touch her. She kept too much in herself. Her life was such she had to keep too much in herself. My wisdom came too late. My wisdom came too late. You think it's possible that one or two parents have thought that one? Man, if only now I could start having you. There's so much I would know. There's so much I would understand about how to raise you. But that is not the way wisdom is acquired. Let's write that one down. Wisdom, it seems, does often come too late. And that's an interesting word, wisdom. Because is that different from knowledge? So you can know stuff and still not have wisdom. This mother is a classic example of this. She knew something was going on. She just couldn't understand it. Wisdom, of course, is that quest for understanding. She gets the understanding, but it's kind of too late. And of course, now she's worried about her own daughter, who, of course, is not so worried about midterms, middle of the term exams in college, because she says they're all going to be atom bombed anyway. Remember, the 1950s is the time of the Cold War. In other words, she says it almost sarcastically, what's the point of trying to learn anything? In the end, we're all going to get blown away anyway. At level 2B, notice all the different kinds of things going on here. We have obviously characterization. We have setting going on. We obviously have the consideration of symbolism, right? This ironing means something. And notice at the very end of this, let her be. So all that is in her will not bloom. But in how many does it? There is still enough left to live by. Only help her to know. Help her to help make it so. There is cause for her to know that she is more than this dress on the ironing board, helpless before the iron. I mean, what a genius. I hope, by the way, that some of the times when we're reading selections, this will make you, move you to want to go and find all of I Stand Here Ironing and read the entire text. It is a remarkable text. But notice that word picture. In other words, as she's ironing the dress with that really hot iron, she thinks about her daughter as kind of being like that dress, who is kind of like, I hope she's not imprisoned, I hope she can find a reason to try and get further than I went. Which of course leads us already to level 3. At 3A, what is the text for you that most summarizes the idea of how important it is to survive? No matter how big the challenges, no matter how important and difficult. As freshmen, we'll study a text by the great poet Homer called the Odyssey, which actually invented in many ways the idea that life is a journey, and that the destination is not actually the most important part, but rather the trip, the journey itself. Of course, at 3B, and this is the most important element for us, it is the challenge for us as we begin our freshman year to ask the inside-outside question, right? First of all, the outside question, those people that have raised you, what do you imagine it is they think about you, their hopes for you, their dreams for you? And in 4 years, when you walk the track and the balloons go up and the mascara runs, graduation, you'll have a certain experience of that, but so will they. And they will know 18 years, bam, gone. Where did it go? And of course, every parent knows this who's ever raised a child who graduates. I hope I did enough. I hope I did enough. This is, of course, where we are. Of course, finally, how do you personally relate to a text like this? Do you feel imprisoned? Is education your ticket to ride? The great emancipated slave Frederick Douglass said as much. If you can't read, he said, if you can't write, if you can't think, you might as well be in a prison or in chains, because there's no escape. But if you can get an education, you have a way to get out of the worst imaginable prison, the prison of the mind. Do you believe that? And do you come to your high school experience with that in mind? I hope that you have some sense of optimism in that regards. Well, there you go, an introduction to levels of reading and the great Tillie Olsen. Thank you.